Can you speak to what sun gazing is for people listening who are like, what? Did you just look at the sun in the morning? Like, why were you doing it? What's the thought behind it?
Yeah, it's I guess a process of understanding that the sun is the source of all life. And so it's like the most unconditional loving expression that we can ever experience because it's just pure light. It just shines 24/7. It doesn't care whether you've been a good person or a bad person. It just shines light, which is the source of all life on the planet. So for me, yeah, again, I just came across a YouTube that I resonated with by a fella called HRM, and he was talking about all these incredible healing benefits to the body and spiritual experiences from staring straight into the sun at either in the first hour of the day or the last hour of the day. And so, yeah, I was quite regimented with it. And by that, I mean, I just increased how long I was looking at the sun for 10 seconds a day. So if you start by looking at the sun for 10 seconds a day and then you add 10 seconds each day, after about 9 months, you get up to 45 minutes. So if you factor in some cloudy days, it takes about a year to get to that stage. And yeah, I noticed just significant transformational benefits from doing that, both physically and mentally.
I'm curious, what was that like? What were the physical benefits that you noticed? Like biochemically, did you notice something?
Yeah, the big thing for me, well, I actually started communing with the sun. The biggest thing I noticed was the removal of separation and fear. So I didn't even realize at the time, but the major fear that existed inside of me was the fear of death. So when the sun actually showed me that separation is an illusion, then once that separation is removed and we realize we're infinite eternal beings, then that fear of death starts to subside. And we realize the connection between all things, which that's why I say it's the most profound experience I've ever had. Because once we understand that connection between all things, then again, the time that we're here and the fact that we exist is the greatest miracle that can ever be. And so the rest of the time, it's just playing. It's just experience. And I don't mean that in an aloof way, because the reverence that comes from understanding what experience takes, what it takes for us to actually exist, is the most profound miracle that can ever be. So it just sent me into this space of deep gratitude and reverence for life in the simple things, by being in nature, by waking up in the morning and being able to take a breath, being able to have a glass of water, being able to just exist is so miraculous. So, yeah, and then I kind of got to a point maybe 30 minutes in where I needed to eat less. So I've been doing a lot of fasting. And when I did actually eat, I could actually feel my body becoming tired. It was really interesting. So I'd be like clear and connected from fasting and sun gazing, and then I'd have something to eat and everything would slow down again. So I was just able to realize some of those subtleties between, clear, clean energies and higher frequency perceptions, and then the density that we also experience.
Brad, when you witnessed him going through that, were you like, I'm going to start sun gazing? Or were you like...
It was a definitely intriguing part of the journey for me as well too. It's like that through osmosis, you learn a lot as well. It's sort of almost for me, it lands quite the same, right? But there's also the physiological impact that it has on the body for like getting in that first light. There's some really incredible studies currently going on and some great research around getting first light, resets your circadian rhythms. Because we spend so much time these days actually looking at our phones and being in unnatural light, that as soon as we start to get in the early light where that UV is less than 1 or sitting on 1, it's the most impactful time to actually look at the sun. So there's two things that are going on, right? There's a physiological thing that we've been pre-wired for millions of years, that this human vessel's evolved. and also like a deep spiritual process that's happening as well. So it's like this unwiring of a preconceived, unnatural way versus going into it in a very deep, physiological, natural way where, that first light's hitting the eyes and then getting access straight into the parts of the brain that need it. So it's almost, there's two things that are happening. There's a physiological level and then there's a deep spiritual level. So I was actually witnessing the deep spiritual level of what David was going through, and I was intrigued by that, but also the physiological. Oh, what's it actually doing to the body? And then I dived straight into that. So it was sort of almost, it was great for me because I see someone doing it and then go, oh, how does that work for me on my daily level? Where potentially at that time I wasn't actually renounced all of my worldly possessions. I was still firmly in what I was doing. So it's like, and I think it's a really good point for a lot of people too, because we've got access to so much information right now, and it's overwhelming that you've just got to come back to how does it serve me in this moment, and how does it like work in my world, and what little bits can I take that make it work for me, instead of like I've got to do exactly what that person does to actually get that same expression. So that's the sort of the guiding principles for me, is like, how is that going to work for me in my body and in my life at this time?